Okay, so I'm working on the wall by this window here. What I've done is I put my plus nuts through a hole. I had to drill it just a little bit bigger. It fit like a 5/16. I need to drill it out to 3/8, and that fits a 1/4 by 20 bolt. So I have one there, one up here, or 3 up here. And then I fastened it. Once it's mounted to here, it's a really rigid hold, so I used pocket holes to apply the wood to here. And so now I've framed out my window. This is where the shade is going to mount to, and then I'm going to build like some little shelves in here to meet the plywood there, so it'll just be kind of recessed. And then I'll cover this so that it looks nicer than that cheap wood. I'm going to cover this whole thing here with a thin plywood, and then we're going to tile over top of that with a glue-on tile to keep the weight down. As for lighting, so I bought this LED strip lighting, and I thought, oh, this would fit perfect right in here. So it fits in the slot of the 80/20, and it just kind of sits in there. I don't know if you can see that moving. Just sits in there, and so you can wire it up, and it'll give you like a recessed lighting without actually seeing any of the light, like pucks and stuff like that. So it'll fit in these. This is the 10 series. It'll fit directly in that slot, and it fits pretty good. It doesn't tip or anything. In the 15 series, you could do the same, but I would take the backing off. It has has an adhesive backing, and so I would take the backing off, slide it in, and then press it up against to make it stay. Okay, so I have my plywood panel up. I have it clamped to here, so what I'm going to do is trace the other side so I can get the frame that's for the window. So I popped open my window here, and my wife pushed in on the other side so I could run a pencil along this line here. Okay, so I got the tile put up. So basically I'm using this tile. We got it from Home Depot. Let me take it out of the packet here. So this is the tile that we put up. You can see I put it up all over here. This is a self-adhesive tile. And normally I don't like the self-adhesive stuff because it's pretty flimsy, but this stuff is pretty good. It has like a tar-like, I think it might even be butyl or something like that, backing. And so they recommend getting soapy water and putting it on there so it allows you to move it around. But I found that it wasn't really sticking very well to the wood. And so I got my heat gun out and just heated up the back. You know, took off the white paper, heated up the back until I could see it was like a little bit melted, and then stuck it on there, and it just holds really fast. I mean, once you put it on there, they want you to put the liquid on it to give you time to move it around. But it's because once I put it on there with the heated up back, it just stuck. So you had to, in order to reposition, you had to really just tear it right off. So I put up the frame for the window. I still need to either paint or put some brick in there because my frame was just a little bit wider than the window was. So I put the frame up first and then did the brick around it because it's, I noticed when I was putting this switch set in here and drilling through it, it cracks and crumbles. So I didn't want to do that with this. So I put this on first and then did the brick around it. I also used a sanded grout. This doesn't require grout, but to fill in some of the gaps. Let me see if I can find like right here. There was a little bit of a gap in here from where I didn't quite get it pushed up against it. So filling it in with the sanded grout helps, and it gives it kind of a more natural look. I just use this caulk type sanded grout. I've used it in my house and it worked really good for a faux wood or faux brick panel. Yeah, so that's it. I didn't go down much further than that because I'm going to have a countertop come in here and it'll slip right underneath this. Okay, so this is my mounting frame here. It's just this angle steel with holes in it. Just matched up here with here. This is going to go into the floor of the, or into the bottom of the van. I screwed up some plus nuts up in there. If you can see them. Let's see. Right there. Some plus nuts. One there. One over there. And then two in the back there. So that's this distance from here to here. So basically what I did is I just took the frame and I put in 2 plus nuts. I just enlarged 2 holes that were already there, matched up where it goes on the frame here, and mounted it up just so it's like supporting just the frame, not the tank, and then put these threaded rods through and then brought them up to see where they touched, and then that's where I marked the holes for the other 2. So now we're going to test fit it, see how it fits. So this is basically going to be the water tank here. This is a gray. Right now it's just kind of, I just kind of put it up there just to see how it's going to look. It's going to sit up a little higher than this. It's currently probably about the same height as my step bracket, so it'll go up a little bit, so that'll help with the clamps. I think I still have like an inch or so of travel that I can go up. So now I'm working on the gray water system. So this is our sink. Right now it's just set in there. Get this out of the way here. And here's my hot water heater. So I've got cold water coming in there, hot water coming out here. The hot water is just going to, right now, to the shower, and then there's another branch off to go to the faucet for over here. I tapped off of the main line coming in for the cold, so these will both hook into my shower head. For the coming out of the sink, I have my P-trap. This is fins down. This is just 1.5 inch pipe, and these are couplers that I got at Home Depot. So from here I'm going from 1.5 to 1.5, and then this coupler is going from 1.5 to 1 inch PVC, and you need a special coupler for that because it won't fit in these standard. So there's one that has a reducer that fits 1.5 and 1.25. Well, this is 1.25 on the outside. So that's kind of the confusing thing about plumbing, is that some of the diameters are referring to the inside and some are referring to the outside. So it's going through the bottom here. The reason I have this big hole is because I didn't plan ahead, and I had to drill, and I wasn't sure where it was with this in the way. So I cut a big hole in it so I could see where the pilot hole came through, and then I drilled down through there with a 1.5 inch hole saw all the way through the van. And then here's my drain for the shower. I used plumber's putty and then cinched it down, and this is glued to the floor. I have my gray water tank. installed up there. This is using the same method that Big Logan used. This is my drain coming out here, and I'm gonna have a electronic ball valve on the end of this. I need to run on top of the gray water tank. I need to run the vent line. So underneath, this is where my sink is coming through. So I'm just using 1-inch PVC around to here, around to there, and then backing around into the top of the drain. This is my shower coming through here. I was gonna join them from here to here and then to there, but the issue with that is that would have brought it down lower than this, getting closer and closer to my exhaust pipe. And so I elected to do it separate, but that meant I needed another P-trap on the shower line. So this comes through, and this is P-trap. The ribs on these go down. This is another one of those couplers from Home Depot. It's going, or no, this came with the Hepvo. But over here is another. So I used one of those couplers from Home Depot, and I just used the gasket for it. And I'll show you that gasket because it doesn't fit in here on a 1-inch pipe. You need 1.5 PVC. But with that adapter, it works fine. Going into the tank, I have another one that was a 90-degree elbow, and it has this is again one of those from Lowe's. So it's going from 1-inch PVC to 1-inch PVC, so I needed 2 of those washers. And you can't buy them separately, you just have to buy them with a coupler. So I bought like 3 couplers, so I could have 8 or 6 washers. And then it goes to 1-inch PVC and then into the tank fill. The reason that I went with these instead of just doing a solid PVC is if I need to ever take it apart, I can just disconnect it right there and then disconnect it here, and then I can pull the whole tank out if I need to. Okay, so on this pipe I put this heat shield cloth that I bought for the Webasto, and I had some extra left, so I just kind of wrapped it around this pipe to protect it from the exhaust. So I'll keep an eye on that. The only thing to worry about is you would take a shower and water would drip out, so if it melted. On this side I installed my electronic valve. So I have just a hose cover here. So it's a 1-inch valve, and then I bought a converter from 1-inch to garden hose, so this way I can run my garden hose to wherever I need to dump. And then this is a 2-wire. I've seen people do 3-wire, I've seen people do 5-wire. I actually ordered the 5-wire unit, and it has features on it that I didn't really need, so I decided to buy the 2-wire instead. So the 2-wire is just a regular DC, just a DC switch. So ground and power, and when you engage the switch, it turns it on. When you disengage the switch and it loses power, it closes the valve. It also has this little manual turning thing right here, so if you ever have problems with the valve, you can manually turn it to open it up, like if you had a failure on a motor or something like that. But this will allow you to just manually turn it. And then I just have it supported by one of those stainless steel zip ties. So it'll be good. So I just installed this switch unit here. It's the same as on the other side. It's 6 or 5 points. And so this is my dump valve right here. I got my switch set up for the water drain. So it's just a two-parter here. Turn it on. You can hear it opening up. That's open. And turn power off. And rolls back in. That's it for that. Now I'm setting up my tank level sensors. So I'm using the KUS sensors, and they can actually plug directly into the Cerbo. So this might be a little hard to see because the space is quite limited. So there's my Cerbo right there, and then that top plug right over there is your tanks. So you just plug each sensor into that top plug. I don't know if you can see that. And so it's positive on the top and negative on the bottom. And then starting from the top going down is 1, 2, 3, 4. So I used these ferrules, the black ferrule, which is a 16 AUG ferrule, 8mm 9, and that fits in there just perfect. So now that they're hooked in, you have to come to your Cerbo and then set them up. So click menu. They should show up here. So this one I've already fixed. So I'm going to do the other freshwater tank. So everything is listed as fuel tank at first. So just click it. You're going to set the gallons, or do your setup first. So here's where you set your gallons. And I have a 28-gallon tank for fresh water. And this is fresh. And then it's going to be gallons. And then you also have to change this sensor here. It says 0 to 180 ohms by default. That's European. So we change it to the US. And then we're good to go. Oh, it didn't take the... You have to hit this little checkbox on the bottom. So 240 to 30, that's US, freshwater, US gallons. And it's showing I have 0 gallons left because it's an empty tank. And then I also saw how you can get this display to come up. By default, it's only this one and this one. So it's menu, scroll all the way down to settings, and then I/O. Oh no, this is for, so by default it has 4 tank sensors, so you can remove any sensor that you're not using. I think it's display and language, and then show boat and motorhome overview, and that's what that page is. And then you have your setting for time on, time off as well. So if you turn this off, when I go to pages, I'm only going to have those 2. Go back, settings, display and language. Turn on that overview. Other things you can do here is set your date and time. So mine is set to Pacific. Now I have the wastewater and freshwater show both 0 right now. So what I'll do is I'll fill them up with water just to test them out. I need to leak test my system anyway to make sure that nothing's leaking down there. And then I'm going to probably dump about 5 gallons down the drain. Okay, so we took 2 5-gallon buckets of water and poured one down the sink, one down the shower, and also a little extra. And so we're at 75% capacity in the wastewater tank. And now my next step is to drain it. I went underneath and I looked and there were no leaks that I could see. So everything is good and tight. So yeah, let me get a hose. Okay, so I have a hose hooked up and it's going down to water our plants since this is just water out of the tap. So I'm gonna open the valve.
Yep.
Okay, so it's taken about 5 minutes to get to here, 2% left. I think some of that's just going to be trapped because of the way the tank is. The port is higher than the bottom of the tank, and so you're not going to get all of that out of there. But yeah, seems to work fine. Oh, 1%.